गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः ॐ शान्ति प्रणाम थैंक यू
रागिणः परो व्यक्तात् अण्डमव्ययसम्भवम् अण्डस्यान्तस्त्विमे लोकाः सप्तद्वीपा च मेदिनी ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Verse 23, chapter 2 onwards. We'll chant a couple of verses, 2 or 3 verses, and then come back because they all go together in a way. Nainan chindanti shastrani नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापः न शोषयति मारुतः अच्छेद्योऽयमदाह्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतस्थाणुः अचलोऽयं सनातनः अव्यक्तोऽयमचिन्त्योऽयम् अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितुमर्हसि अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैवं शोचितुमर्हसि जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तनिधनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना. These are some verses. They belong to the same category because they have the same message to offer. And the message is very simple here. Just a synopsis of the message before we get into the specifics of the Bhashya. The synopsis of the message is extremely, very, very poignant and focused, extremely focused here, that the I, which is called Atma in Sanskrit, the Atma is not subject to destruction. Why? Because it is free of birth and death. And if it is free of birth and death, it is here always. And if it is here always, it is the truth of everything. It is the truth of what I call I. It is the truth of what is called the Jagat, the universe. And it is also the truth of what we call the source of the universe, God, etc. It's all just one. And so therefore this I is non separate from everything that it encounters, and this I alone is to be understood, because if it is not properly understood, then we have some problems, because then there is fear, sorrow, pain, etc. So here the 23rd verse says, um, the 23rd verse says, Na enam chindanti shastrani, na enam dahati pavakah, na cha enam kledayanti apah, na shoshayati marutah. We already started to see this last time. So, the weapons, shastrani, weapons, na enam chindanti. Enam atmanam, this atma, weapons, chindanti, from chid, to cut, to pierce. Weapons cannot pierce the eye. Na enam dahati pavakah. Pavakah comes from the word pu, to purify. And the agent of purification. And that's the suffix there. Aka is the agent suffix, one of the agent suffix that we have. Then before taking the suffix, there is vriddhi, so pu becomes pau plus akaha, then pavakaha, and the pavakaha means the purifier. Fire is the greatest purifier. That's why the word purifier ends in fire. Okay, so it's the greatest purifier. And because everything is gone, it takes everything, and then one starts from scratch. It's the greatest purifier. And also, if you have any kind of what is that called, surgical instruments, how do you purify them? This autoclave, which is of course has to be put on the fire and sterilized. So this is how the fire purifies. And then any food that is cooked, all the bacteria, the things have to go when it is cooked. Again, it purifies. So the fire is known as the purifier, and the fire destroys everything except Atma. Why? We'll see that soon. But the Taittiriya Upanishad, in short, says that from this Atma alone, as it were, the five elements were, as it were, born. So therefore, it cannot burn the Atma at all, because these agents of destruction, if you will, the five elements, do not belong to the same order of reality as the Atma. So the agents of change, the agents of destruction, the five elements, although they have, as it were, born of the Atma, as it were, come from the Atma, but still they cannot destroy the Atma, because they are not belonging to the same order of reality. It's just like the shadow is not going to destroy you. The shadow is born of you. You have cast the shadow, but the shadow cannot come and create a rebellion and then destroy you. This is the idea here. Very nice. And so so the fire cannot destroy. Na cha enam kledayanti apaha. Apaha means waters. It's a word in Sanskrit which is always in the plural, because you can't say bring me one water. Maybe in the restaurant industry they can say that, okay, two waters on table number 6, you can say like that, but it is understood that there is some kind of a ajahal lakshana there, meaning something that is given up. You have to add the word glasses. Otherwise, it makes no sense. Give me two water. Two water means what? Two drops of water or what? So, to get away from this kind of a problem, in Sanskrit, the word water is always plural, apah, and declines also plurally. And so then, what is happening here? See, water also can be an agent of damage. Very nicely, very easily. That's why you say water damage. So first water comes and then it grows some spores. They are called mold, and then mildew, and then after that it just takes over. It takes over all the things. It loves paper, and then first books and all go, and then you can't even open the book. And then the walls, it takes over the walls, it takes over the entire house. Very difficult also to remove. And so this is all various forms of water damage. Water damage, don't think that some dam has broken and the water has, it's not just exactly flooding. Yes, it's the most obvious form, but then there are all these other forms also of very subtle water damage. So damage by mold and mildew, all these things have to be, any kind of damp, humidity, all this is considered water damage. So then, so water damage, the Atma is exempt from. Again, because the Atma and the waters do not belong to the same order of reality. Why Atma Satyam, water Mithya? Mithya means a kind of an as though reality that is dependent on that which is Sat. And then finally, one more agent of destruction, Marut, which is the wind, air. You can have water damage, you can also have air damage, like wind damage, like tornadoes, cyclones, typhoons, all these things. And the whole house is spinning. Sometimes you see this. And so, therefore, this is the Atma is not subject to that as well. And who is this Atma? Very beautifully in the Bhashya it is given. Enam. He doesn't say Atmanam. He says Prakritam Dehinam. Prakritam, that which is under discussion. Oh, what is under discussion? Dehin. Dehin, the one who is in the body mind sense complex, the indweller of the body mind sense complex, namely you. When you say I, sometimes you refer to the body, sometimes you refer to the mind, sometimes you refer, the I is from the standpoint of the senses, and sometimes you refer to the witness of all of them that's not affected by them. And what the Bhagavad Gita wants us to do is to identify more and more with the last definition of the I, as though living in this body mind sense complex, the indweller of this body mind sense complex that is unaffected by anything that happens to the body, to the mind, to the senses. That is how the I has to be understood. The I belonging to the I identified, rather we can here say misidentified with the body, with the mind, with the senses, has to slowly undergo a transformation, and the I sense, the I notion has to be walked over to this understanding. And what is this understanding? That I am the one living within the body mind sense complex without being affected by it. And so therefore what? Enam prakritam dehinam na chindanti shastrani. The weapons do not cut. Why? Niravayavatvat. Na avayava vibhagam kurvanti shastrani asyadini. Niravayavatvat. Very powerful, beautiful, what's its name? Reasoning. Very nice reasoning. Avayava means limbs, parts, body parts. So, when you have a sword or a dagger, knife, what does it do? it tears asunder one part from the other. Even a kitchen knife. And your target is the eggplant. So, what does it do to the eggplant? This katrikai, what does it do? It cuts it into pieces. Correct? Yeah, so that is the job of the shastras. Even a kitchen shastra, chopping shastra, cuts it into pieces. That is the job of the weaponry, sword, etc. And even if you take bomb, it's supposed to, you know, tear asunder. And what does it do here? It is incapable of doing that because it doesn't have any, Atma doesn't have any protrusions like the eggplant, one protrusion, okra, and, funny shape, potato, all these things, it has a certain shape. It has certain avayavas. So what shape is there for the Atma? Nothing. And then what limbs are there? No. That which doesn't have hands, Atma. That which doesn't have feet, Atma. Apani padam. Apani pado javano grihita. And that which is apani padam. Apani padam means no hands, no legs. Still it moves. This is the paradox. It is all, everywhere. It is everywhere because it is nowhere in particular. It is all pervasive. And so like this, mm, this the if you try to cut the space into pieces, you take a knife or a dagger, nice big dagger, and you slash the air, what will happen? Nothing will happen. Neither air, maybe space is completely, space is a better example because air at least you can feel. And so you can temporarily block the air or change the course of its flow. But here you try to cut the space. Why? Niravayatvat, no cutting happens, no possibility to cut. And so therefore what? So therefore niravayavattvat na avayava vibhagam kurvanti. Avayava vibhagam means cut it into neat little pieces. Here dismember. So the dismemberment cannot happen. Dismemberment means you cut the avayavas and then separation, no cutting, no separation, no decapitation, no cutting off the hands, legs, nothing. Not possible because there are no parts. Just like you air cut the space. You cut the space. How can you cut the space? You cannot. Your hands will get tired slashing the space as it were, and then you will yourself stop. So similarly, the space like all pervasive Atma, which is not even space, which is the which is the father of space, the mother of space, as it were. How can you destroy that with a dagger, with any kind of weaponry? Not possible. And then tatha na enam dahati pavakah agnihi api na bhasmi karoti. Agnihi api na bhasmi karoti. Cannot be reduced to ashes. Because in order to be reduced to carbon, ashes, it has to have some form. What the fire does is transforms that form into ashes. So if in the beginning you don't have form, then it's just like setting space on a fire. It will not reduce to ashes because there is nothing there nothing material here to transform it into something else. Not at all possible. And so, tatha, in the same manner, na enam kledayanti apaha. Apam hi sa avayavasya vastunah ardri bhavakaranena avayava vishlesha apadane samarthyam tadna niravayave atmani sambhavati. Same reason is given why the waters also cannot hurt the Atma. Why can't the waters do anything? Because of the fact that the I, the Atma, the Dehin, that which obtains in this, as it were, in this body, mind, sense complex, without being part of this assemblage called the body, mind, sense complex. So, na enam kledayanti. So, ardri bhava karanena. Ardri bhava means making it humid, humidifying it. And in the form of so many things we talked about, mold, mildew, etc., it is not possible for it to destroy the Atma. Avayava, avayavi, shlesha apadane. Shlesha apadane means the water is capable of separating parts of a thing which has parts. Atma has no part. And the water is not like a sword. The sword in one swoop, cuts something and it's done. But the water slowly acts. That's why you don't know that there is water damage until it is too late. Slowly, slowly, slowly. First, you see one small, tiny spot on the wall. And then you don't know what it is. You just, ignore it. And then you go on holiday and come back. And then now it is the size of the palm of your hand. And then you say, oh, time to find what is happening. And then by that time, what you see is that much, maybe this big. And then inside the walls, then it all has to be replaced. When you call the people to look at it, then they will say, okay, it's pretty bad. Slowly it acts on it. But then it cannot occur in the case of the eye because it is not having parts. The opposite happens with the wind destruction means it dries something out completely, dehydrates, and including the body. In summer, etc., there is dehydration. We say it is the wind, actually. It's not the fire, it's actually here the wind. And in Ayurveda, it is seen as vata imbalance. It is the wind element which is deranged in the body. And so, therefore, the body, the wind can have an effect, but not the Atma. Tatha, and he gives a very interesting reason. Tatha snehavad dravyam sneha shoshanena nashayati vayuhu enam swatmanam na shoshayati marutah api. Snehavad dravyam. Snehavad dravyam. Dravya means any material, anything actually. So anything that is snehavat. Snehavat means that which is oily or watery. Oily, watery kind of a thing. That the Atma is able to destroy because it dries up that moist thing. Anything moist, supposed to be moist, and like some food you make, and it has some moisture in it, but you leave it out in the air uncovered, and after one day you come back, it'll all be dried out. Like even rice, you make rice, you don't cover it, you leave it on the counter. After a few hours, the top layer which is exposed to the air is like series of thorns. It's like a layer of thorns. It's not like rice at all. Why? The marut, the air has been in action, at play, and that kind of rice you can never eat. It is just terrible, and so you have to throw it out. And so therefore what? So therefore, anything that has some water content, the air can destroy, including this body. That's why there is what is it called, vata imbalance. The wind element in the body is deranged, and for such people, they say that, and the wind element is connected immediately to the buddhi, the brain. And so if the vata is deranged, then the brain is kind of fried. And so therefore, for such people, they recommend lot of rest. Do everything slowly, breathe slowly, and also lot of unguent things. Eat lot of ghee. You have to counter the wind. So you have to eat lot of ghee and all other kinds of things, olive oil, ghee, all kinds of things. You have to kind of nurture the nurture the vata imbalance. And so like this, it can destroy the body. And again, as one grows older, the vata element increases. Yeah, because some excuse must be there, no, to grow old, to fall sick, etc. So this is how it is. The vata element keeps increasing, and that's why half the things you could eat, you cannot eat anymore. One by one, you have to say, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't eat this. The food has the last laugh. You have the first laugh. You say, oh. And then, I'm eating the food up to age 40. After 40, 45, the food starts to eat you. That's why you say, no sugar, I can't have sugar, I can't have this, because this is, I can't have too much water, I can't have too much salt, heart issue, kidney issue, this issue, that issue, something or the other. So the food has the last laugh. First, you eat it for the first half of your life, and the rest half of the life, it starts to eat into you, meaning the body. And so, but here the Atma cannot have, cannot be destroyed by the wind element. First of all, it's not wet. Okay, so it cannot be dried out. It's not like a piece of chocolate cake that has to be kept covered and moist and all. It doesn't have any moisture. Yes, it has the it is more delightful than the chocolate cake, but without needing to have any moisture and needing to be protected, etc. No reason at all to do this. So none of the elements have a say over the Atma, because even though we have seen all these reasons in detail, the primary reason continues to be that they belong to the same, or they belong to various orders of reality. The five elements belong to one order of reality, the Atma entirely another order of reality. तस्माद्वा एतस्माद् आत्मन आकाशः सम्भूतः आकाशाद् वायुः वायोरग्निः अग्नेरापः अद्भ्यः पृथिवी पृथिव्या ओषधयः ओषधीभ्योऽन्नम् अन्नात् पुरुषः. This is the Taittiriya Upanishad. First, it starts with Brahman. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. This Brahman that you want to know about, and that which is the truth of you, is that which is ever existent, Satyam, source of all existence. And it is not a dead existence. Many things are existent, but they are not alive. But it is Jnanam, it is a sentient existence. So it's a sentient being which is all pervasive, which is everywhere, which is the source of all existence and the source of all sentience. And it is Anantam, limitless. It happens to be completely and totally limitless without any whiff of finitude. This is what one is being explained here. And okay, why should I be concerned? Some Brahman somewhere is limitless, but that doesn't take care of my life, full of limitations, full of pain, full of samsara. No, no, no. That Brahman, the one who becomes Brahmavit, the one who knows this Brahman as oneself, means nihitam guhayam, as obtaining within the one's buddhi, where the I is located, within the intellect where the I is located. The one who identifies as this Brahman discovers this Brahman as the very truth of the thinking process. Thinker is Brahman, object of thought is Brahman, subject is Brahman, and the thought, the raw material of the thought itself is Brahman. And Brahman, because it is everything, is no one thing in particular, is not any one thing in particular. And so this Brahman has, this is the Brahman that is known, this is the Brahman that is known as I. And then for that person, samsara ceases to be. Samsara means finitude, limitations, a life of pain, sorrow, fear, etc. No more samsara for this person. And then, and so what? No more sorrow, no more fear. Why? Because whatever they wanted, they have gained in one fell swoop. How can you gain all objects of desire in one fell swoop? By conducting an inquiry into the nature of the desirer. The desirer, is this desiring person the ultimate reality of the I? And even without any Vedanta, the answer comes no, cannot be possible. Why? Because in sleep, you are absolutely fine without entertaining or without pursuing a single desire. Is it not? In sleep, you are perfectly fine. The desire doesn't come into the picture at all, and you are absolutely okay. And even in the waking state, on certain days, you don't need to fulfill any desire. You appear to be absolutely contented. This vyabhichara, this contradiction itself, shows that this is not the desiring person is not real. Real means unchanging. So the desiring person is subject to change. And then what? Okay, let's compromise. Let us say the I, sometimes desiring, kabhi kabhi, and sometimes non desiring. So maybe I am an amalgam of the desiring one and the non desiring one, the wanting one and the non wanting one. Yeah, shall we compromise like this? Well, there is a little discomfort. Why? Because the primary desire seems to be wanting to be the non-desiring one. If given a choice, do you want to be the seeking person or do you want to be the non-seeking person? What will a person say? Yes, I want to be seeking all the time and I want to be unfulfilled all the time. No, I want to be fulfilled. And I want to stop seeking, because somehow, at least after living for a few decades, one understands something which is very very an important insight. One gains an important insight that desires are not so easy to fulfill. How difficult it is to fulfill one desire. Think about it. Then, even a simple desire, it may look simple. Everybody is getting married. I also want to get married. Simple desire, so, one would think. But then one is a bundle of nerves. How to find the right person? And what if the right person turns out to be the wrong person? And then what to do? And oh, it requires a lot of compromise. I like to have my own way, and so how to compromise? Or how to do this? Especially in an Indian marriage, you don't marry the person, you marry their entire family, clan, hometown, village, native place, everything. And so there's a lot of ego adjustment, lot of ego adjustment. And this is how it is. And even a remote relative can come, and the relative, to be, can come and just say to the prospective groom, oh, so what is your salary, how much you make? No, no, no questions are disbarred. Everything is there, everything is allowed. And they will ask plainly, what are your bad habits? You drink, do you smoke, what do you do? Nothing is out of the question at all. And so like this, the even a simple desire, what does it do when it's very difficult to fulfill? Then somehow you get the pluck to get married, you get the gumption, and somehow one gets married. Then after that, what? Oh, thank God there are Bhagavad Gita classes, one concludes, because, at least there is some way to understand this situation. So, really speaking, if given a choice, if somebody is asked, anybody, this is a universal situation. This is not just, this is not a question just for Hindus or Buddhists or Christians or anything. Anybody in any religion, in any part of the world, anybody you ask, you give them an option, tick one or the other. Do you wish to be fulfilled or do you wish to be unfulfilled? Of course, I want to be fulfilled. Do you wish to be wanting all the time or do you wish to not be wanting all the time? I want to not be wanting all the time. It is very, this is a very simple thing. And so, if I don't want to be wanting all the time, that means that either I should go about right now, I should make it my life's mission to fulfill each and every want. And you know how that has gone so far, correct? Yeah, in your life, you know how that has gone so far. And so, either you do that, or what do? You make it a point to query into, to look at the truth of the desiring I, the wanting person. And when you look deeply into the wanting person, the wanting person crumbles, crumbles like puff pastry, crumbles, into nothingness. I mean, really, there is no such wanting person at all. There is no, that is a spoof. That is a spoof because of Atma Ajnanam, because of self ignorance and its broods. I don't like myself. I don't, I'm not good enough. I need to be more accomplished. I have to do this. I have to do that. All this pressure, everything. And so the self ignorance, and it's because of the self ignorance and its various offsprings and iterations, what happens? Because of that, I start to feel like I am a bundle of desires, where I have no place to take this. I'm a bunch of desires. But really speaking, the yearning, the universal yearning, is to be a fulfilled person. And what does the Gita say? The Gita says you already are what you seek. You are a fulfilled person. You're already a fulfilled person. You don't need anything to come and fulfill you from outside. So querying into the disgruntled I yields this gem, yields this sentiment, yields this understanding. And what is this understanding? That you are a fulfilled person. You are already fulfilled. And so if I'm already fulfilled and I'm away from that sense of fulfillment, it is something that has to be discovered. It is something that has to be understood properly, discovered, and lived, abided in. And this is exactly the message of these verses. And so therefore what? So therefore the I is by itself absolutely fulfilled and not subject to destruction at all. Not at all subject to destruction, because the fulfilled aham, yeah, is not on the same par as the five elements that are being talked about. So the Taittiriya Upanishad, I was saying, starts off by talking about this fulfillment and how the knower of Brahman is totally fulfilled, and then suddenly switches gears on you silently when one is not looking. So the first mantra is all about Brahman. Brahmavit apnoti param. Brahmana saha samashnute sarvan kaman. And the person is so fulfilled that all, as good as all the desires being fulfilled, because there is only one desire which is to be fulfilled. And then soon after that, the second mantra, as though there is a non sequitur, there is no connection at all. Tasmad va etasmad atmanah, not brahmanah, atmanah akashas sambhutah. Therefore, from this atma, what? From this I? Just now I thought we were talking about Brahman, and now we are talking about I. It can only mean one thing, because the Vedas are seen as infallible. So you can't say, oh, Veda made a mistake. No, Veda cannot make a mistake. Veda is seen as infallible. And we have to see the Veda is infallible to help ourselves to this knowledge. That is why, so to develop some kind of a respect for that which is revealed, because it's only helping myself. If I start proofreading the Veda, then it's not going to help me. No, the relationship has completely changed. I start correcting grammar. I start correcting, I start editing based on my own baggage. I start editing. Because what is the baggage here? Atma can never be Brahman. And so therefore I can never be Brahman. So this must be, Veda must have made a mistake. No, switch it around and then see what you get. Veda cannot make a mistake. Veda will not make a mistake. And so there is only one explanation. What is that? This Atma, the I that is being talked about, is Brahman. The knower of the I is Brahman. The I is Brahman. And so, from this Atma, from this I, as it were, this whole Jagat of names, forms, starting with the five elements, has been manifest. We don't even say created. It's just manifest, demanifest, manifest, unmanifest. This is the cycle of creation. And so the whole Veda has been as though, the whole Jagat, the whole universe has been as though manifest from this very I. But how to assimilate this? Just like you look at your own dream. In your own dream, what is happening? In your own dream, you are very much there. You have given a being to everything based on your own memory and desire. You have given a being to all things in your universe. You paint the whole universe, various colors, and then you have this whole universe there for you to interact with. And then when the dream wraps up, then what happens? Only you are left. It's your memory and your desire that brings forth this dream. So too the universe, which is non-separate from this I, is brought about by one's own, yeah. Really speaking, there are two levels here. If one is ready to listen to this, ultimately we say, if somebody says what is the source of the universe, the correct answer for the Vedantin, would be what universe? This is what you have to say. Because all there is I. No, but what about the tree? Tree, let it be. That's also I. And what about the flowers? That's also I. What about all these other people? That's also I. The in-laws, the outlaws, everybody. I. It's all an extension as though of me. And so this is one answer. And this is the answer given by the Upanishad. Everything is an extension of you when you know this. And then, and until one knows this, one brings in, one drags in the concept of Ishvara. Because we say, okay, the source of the universe, Ishvara, the same, who is this Ishvara? The same body, mind, sense complex, the same sentience that is blessing this body, mind, sense complex is that which is free and not as it were confined in this body mind sense complex, that same sentience endowed with the shakti, the power to create, the power to take back, the power to manifest. That is what we call Ishvara, and that Ishvara is the one that has projected this entire universe, just like you project your dream world. This is the this is exactly how we would describe it. And so this is that's why the manifest world, and then the I that obtains, the I that graces this body mind sense complex, is the I is exempt from all sources of destruction in the manifest world. And here, in addition to the five elements, you can add the elements, elementals as well. Elementals means things that have come out of the elements also you can add, such as, insects, reptiles, cockroaches, whatever one is afraid of. You can add all those things. Big cats, lions, tigers, cheetahs, jaguars, or the whole, all of them. And because they are fearful. And then what else can you add? Then you can add other things, mountains and oceans. And still, they also come under the water damage, all these things. But still, the body can be destroyed. The I can never, ever, ever, ever be destroyed. The I simply, is. And that isness, if the karma is unfulfilled, this is the local reason we give. If the karma is unfulfilled, not fully exhausted, it takes on another body. That same is then is known as I in another body. And then that body gone. And then the same is graces another body mind sense complex. So the first body was that of a very, 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 very busy CEO. Oh, no time. Have to jet set here, go here. Morning Brussels, evening Paris, and then next morning New York. This is how the person led the life. And then one day, the fellow saw one buffalo, went to India for a conference or something, saw a water buffalo nicely just lolling in the mud. The same mud for which people pay expensive spa and all these things, spa treatment you pay for this mud bath, which the buffalo, without having a single dollar, single anything, is enjoying there. And then he saw that and he envied the buffalo. He said, "Oh, this is better off than I. So relaxed and so nice." And then somehow, and this is just a belief. So when children are small in India, they say that, oh, don't wish for difficult things, don't have negative fantasies, the child is told, because there are all these small small angels, devas. They are called astu devatas, meaning they are saying tathastu, so be it, so be it, so be it. And so we have to imagine, this whole story is imagined anyway. So we have to imagine that this CEO, as he was seeing and envying the water buffalo, some of these angelic devatas said, Tathastu, so be it. Next, like water buffalo, same eye, water buffalo. No stress, no need to catch a plane, no need to stand in queue, no need to fight with, for some kind of to swallow up another corporation. No need to do that. No need to have stress of having too much money. This is a special kind of stress. Oh, I have too much money, I don't know what to do with it, and I'm worried that people will take it away. And in fact, the primary stress of this kind of a life is that one has to protect money from itself, because money is subject to inflation, as we are finding out these days. And so money has to be protected from itself. Now, how can you protect that which you thought is going to protect you from itself? This is why there is so much stress. This is why everybody is on antacids, and so this is the thing. But for the indweller eye, whether it's in the body of the buffalo, whether it's in the body of the CEO, whether it's in the body of a scorpion or an ant, it's all one and the same. It is the same eye, all sentient, endless, limitless, and delightful. But in association with a particular body mind sense complex, because of the presence of the I notion, which hugs on to everything that is finite, the I suffers from sense of limitations. The I suffers from notions of finitude, which is called samsara, which is called the ocean of samsara. In fact, the ocean of samsara is but a notion of samsara. That is what we have been looking at. And so none of these things can kill the I, and therefore the same thing in verse number 24 is talked about slightly differently, so that to send the message properly. So achedyaha ayam, अदाह्यः अयम् अक्लेद्यः अशोष्यः एव च अच्छेद्यः, not subject to cutting, not subject to burning, not impervious to water, not subject to being destroyed by water damage, not subject to being dehydrated. This is the Atma, Ayam. And then Nityaha. So first line all negatively. Not subject to this, not subject to that, not. And then, of course, a doubt may arise if the Atma is not subject to destruction, if the Atma is not subject to water damage, if the Atma is not subject to fire damage, maybe there is nothing called Atma. Atma is zero. That is a very logical conclusion to reach. But except that it is not, because one can never deny the existence of the one that is saying the whole thing, the whole I is zero. Who is saying I am zero? Are you existent or not? Yes. So then how can you say you zero means non-existent? You can't say it is non-existent. You can say everything is non-existent, but you cannot deny the existence of the one who is saying everything is non-existent. So this shunya bada, shunya, even in some of the Buddhist teachings, it is there, but sometimes even they use it similar to Vedanta. Shunya means emptied of notions, emptied of name, emptied of form. So emptied of notions, name, and form doesn't make it non-existent. Doesn't make it non-existent. We can't come to that conclusion. That would just be that is very obvious. So just because something is formless doesn't mean it's non-existent. Space is formless, but it exists. Time is formless, but it exists. So therefore this is so emptied of name. Just because something doesn't have a name doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Emptied of name, emptied of form. So this is how, in the Zen philosophy, this is how it is talked about. Very, very close to Vedanta, really. And this is basically what it is. So achedyoyam adahyoyam, meaning it cannot be cut, it cannot be burnt, cannot be destroyed at all. It is indestructible. But just because it is indestructible, you cannot come to the conclusion that it is non-existent. Absolutely not. Why? Because we can describe it in positive terms. How? Nityaha, that which always is the unchangingly the same. And then sarvagataha, all pervasive, doesn't have a location. Because if it is finite, it will have a location. Like a pot occupies space one, occupy, not space, place one, P1 at T1, time one. So it is bound. It is time bound, it is place bound. And so here the I does not occupy any particular place or time. Oh, but it occupies my body, mind, sense complex. Yes. But it occupies all other bodies, mind, senses at the same time. The I in you is the I in he, is the I in she, is the I in all of them. It's all the same I. One I, as it were, without losing weight and without losing parts of itself because it has no parts, can abide, as it were, in many bodies, many forms, many names, many forms. The I in the rock is the same as the I in you. The only difference is you have the free will, you have the subtle body to be able to say, I rock. The rock, poor rock, cannot say, I rock, even though it has a better history to tell than your own life history. Your own life history is what? So many small, few decades long. And the rock can say, I was a tree in a forest. It can say that. I have seen dinosaurs. You have just seen their skeletons in a museum. The rock can outshine you. It's all. So the I is one and the same. Sarvagataha, all pervasive. But at the same time, sthanuhu. Sthanuhu means stump of a tree or something unmoving. So here the I is unmoving because even though it blesses, so to speak, blesses many names, many forms, all the names and forms without becoming any one thing in particular, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere. Or maybe it stays in one place and sways like a branch of a tree. Achalaha. No. It is unchanging, unmoving. It simply is. And that is I. That's why when you say is I, you just cancel the S from the is and then you get I. That which is I. And then achalaha ayam sanatanaha. Sanatanaha means it has been like this forever. And it will continue to be like this forever. The namer of the universe does not have a name to speak of. The namer of all names and forms of the universe, the objectifier of the universe, is not an object. Not even a subject, we have to say. Oh, if I'm not the object, maybe I'm the subject. No, you're not the subject either. Why? Because the subject is a relational entity. You are a subject in relation to the object. This is Vedanta, kindergarten. KG Vedanta, you are unlike everything else. Everything else is not Atma, you are Atma. But then this is not graduate school Vedanta. Graduate school Vedanta, the object is not separate from the subject. The objects resolve into that subject, but the subject is never subject to being resolved. That which is, that is all it is. So even the term subject is a relational term, a temporary term. If the objects are not there, then the subject also is, the status of subject goes away. All that is there in the place of the subject is that which upheld the status of the subject, the shining, sentient, all knowing I. That is all that is there. And so, yasmat अन्योन्य अन्योन्य नाशहेतूनि भूतानि एनम् आत्मानं नाशयितुं न उत्सहन्ते. These various mutually destructive elements, as we saw earlier, they are incapable of destroying this I. Therefore, it is totally eternal, nityaha, limitless, eternal. Nityatvat sarvagatah. Because it is eternal, it is all pervading. And it is stable like a pillar. Sthanuhu. Sthiraha. And then sthiratvat. Because it is stable, it is firm, unmoving. Achalaha. And then it is not a new something that has come into being. It is sanatanaha. It has always been like this. Now we can have a doubt here. The doubt is this. Well, if the Veda and the Bhagavad Gita, for that matter, are telling me something I don't know, then the ancient, what is that? Manner of expression dictates that it should be free. Something that is worth reading must be free from the fallacy of redundancy. And here, the same thing has been stated 105 times. Not subject to water damage, not subject to this, not. Aha, maybe the Veda is subject to, the Bhagavad Gita here is subject to being very redundant. It has come under the fallacy of being, fallacy of redundancy. In Sanskrit called as Punarukti dosha. Dosha, fallacy, Punarukti, redundancy. And then Adi Shankara comes to the defense and says, na etesham shlokanam paunaruktyam chodaniyam. Please do not, after studying verses 21 to 24, as we have done, come to the conclusion that the Veda has the fallacy, is subject to the fallacy of redundancy. That would be a great disservice to the Veda, to the Gita. Please do not come into that conclusion at all. So, why should I not come to that conclusion? He says, because yat ekena एव श्लोकेन आत्मनः नित्यत्वम् अविक्रियत्वं च उक्तं न जायते म्रियते वा इत्यादिना तत्र यद् एव आत्मविषयं किञ्चित् उच्यते तद् एतस्मात् श्लोकार्थात् न अतिरिच्यते किञ्चित् शब्दतः पुनरुक्तं किञ्चित् अर्थतः इति. So, no punarukti dosha, no fallacy of redundancy should be imputed to these verses. Why? Because everything was already explained in verse number 21, which was the Atma is never born, never dies, etc. So then the other, the 22, 23, 24, they are just elucidating what was already said. So the verse 21 is like a thesis statement, he says, and then the others are talking about different things, and then different things, but at the same time repetition is important for the teaching. He's going to say that. Why? Durbodhatvat atmanah. The atma is not easily understood. Why is it easily not understood? Because I have ideas about what I am. And those ideas first have to be, first have to be sent somewhere to the rubbish heap. And then what I am shines. Oh, honestly, what I am shines on its own if all these ideas are sent away. So there is resistance, there is fear. Oh, and then there's all kind of misconceptions. And there are conspiracy theories about gaining this knowledge. If you gain this knowledge, then you will just you will become aloof and you will not talk to anybody. And then it will be just terrible. You won't have any social skills. I don't know where all this comes from. These are all urban myths. And so this is one such myth. You will become antisocial. And this is a question I get each time there is a talk, especially in new places. If I go and there is a talk, then this is what I get. What is that? So if everybody got moksha, don't worry, everybody will not get moksha, not at the same time anyway. So if everybody got moksha, dot dot dot, then what will because they will all stop doing. They will just sit and start reveling in their own self. And then what will happen to the progress of the universe? All our technological progress, everything, in all these areas, we have just slowly come from the Middle Ages, and we have evolved so nicely. Technological evolution, what will happen to that? Everybody will be sitting and doing japa, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. What will happen? Well, to those objectors, to this particular kind of objection, I will say that really speaking, when the pressure to do drops, that doesn't mean you'll stop doing. That means you have more freedom, more energy, and more clarity to see what there is to be done. And you are desireless at this point because you have gained whatever you needed to gain. So all your energy will be going to serving and helping others. This is really the truth. This is what will happen. And so that is why this knowledge should be gained. It's not that technological progress will be stopped. And besides, let me rant on for another 30 seconds. Besides, what technological process? What technological progress? We are slaves to our smartphones and we cannot live without a gadget. We cannot live without so many things. Our ancestors in the Middle Ages were much better. They rose with the sun, they slept with the sun, and they were able to. They did not have the stress that the people in the occupying the earth now do. So more we will see next week. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much.
धन्यवाद